I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Oh yes, I can make it now, the pain is gone. All of the bad feelings have disappeared. Here is the rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Look all around, there's nothing but blue skies. Look straight ahead, there's nothing but blue skies. I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Yeah. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Ooh, it's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Make it a bright, bright, sunshiny day.
Well, aren't you glad you either turned up or tuned in? So, first service I said it's going to be such a great service, and guess what? I was right. I love being right. And we're going to go from good to gooder because we get to listen to Jamal. He is a popular speaker and author on Islam, especially Sufi spirituality and interfaith relations. And I'd say that because I know other Islamic people that don't quite have the slant that Jamal has, so I always put the Sufi in there. Along with that, he is also part of the Interfaith Amigos, and he has been featured in the New York Times, the CBS News, BBC, and various NPR programs. He is the co-founder and the Muslim Sufi Imam for the Interfaith Community Sanctuary. He is the president of the Northwest Interfaith Nonprofit and Non-Denominational Organization, and he travels nationally and internationally, and he has a passion for interfaith community. So that is right up our alley, and he's on our alley. So thank you, Jamal. Woohoo! Yeah!
Thank you so much, Sisters Kathy Ann, for that glorious introduction. I'd like to meet him too. You've been very kind. So my dear friends, today I'll be talking a little bit about some reflections on this pre-Ramadan time. And before that, let's do an Islamic prayer, the first chapter of the Quran. See, the Quran literally means recitation. It's a sonoral revelation. So join me by chanting H-U, Hu. It's the Islamic Aum or Om, the glow of presence. Hu. Keep on going. Hu. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Malik Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم الصراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Beautiful. We just drew in what Hafiz calls the glow of presence. So, my friends, I want to start by saying that the word Ramadan has two main meanings. One is it is the 9th month of the Islamic lunar calendar, Ramadan. And the other meaning is that in this particular month, Muslims will go through a spiritual process of fasting from food, from drink, from sex, pre-dawn to sunset. It's a time of, you might say, intense self-reflection and self-purification. The question is, why do Muslims in this month fast in a spiritual way? This is for Muslims to express profound gratitude to Allah, the God of all of humanity, for the gift of the Quran, the first verses that descended, for what Muslims say, from celestial realms to Angel Gabriel, conveyed to Prophet Muhammad, to humanity, when in the month of Ramadan, in one particular incident, the first verses came down. In the year, we know the year, 610 CE, the Prophet Muhammad, in that time, just Muhammad, he was 40 years old, he was meditating in the caves in Mecca for 40 days and nights. His wife used to accompany him, but on this particular occasion, she had gone home, and he was simply, I guess like Americans say, minding his own business, just meditating, when suddenly he saw this huge light approaching him, radiant, luminous, and it came closer and closer, and Muhammad got frightened. He was perspiring. This luminous, radiant light had a voice. It said, "I am Angel Gabriel." And then said, "Iqra, Iqra." Recite, say something. Apparently Muhammad said, "I'm illiterate," and felt so fearful because he thought he had gone mad. He ran down the mountain all the way into the arms of his beloved wife, who was the first one to, in fact, become a Muslim. But she said, "You're the most sane person, the most beautiful, sane person." She wrapped him in blankets, then ran to meet her cousin, a distant cousin, who was a Christian actually, Waraqa, who was blind but could see visions. He said, "Waraqa, Waraqa, this has happened to my husband. What do you see? What do you see?" Waraqa goes into a trance and says, "He's becoming a prophet. You've got to send him back. Send him back. Send him back." And somehow she persuaded him to go back to the mountain. And Muhammad finally agreed, thinking, my hallucination is over. Once again, that huge light. Once again, "Iqra, Iqra." And he felt some deep pain inside of him. And then from the depth of his being, from that squeeze came out these words of astonishing beauty, which was seared into his soul. And then his family, they wrote them down, what these words were. And this happened to Muhammad for 23 years. Sometimes in response to a question, sometimes unpredictably. It was never pleasant, always difficult. And he would dread what he would call the chiming of bells, the buzzing of bees. Oh, he said, "Oh my God, I know what's happening." And then these words would come out. Now, the collection of these utterances, when Muhammad, peace be upon him, he uttered, is the Quran. And what is the should I say in American language, the big deal about the Quran? The language of the Quran, the cadence, the rhythm, the juxtaposition of words, there is no literature, no Arabic literature. Everybody agrees. People who like Islam, don't like Islam, they say there is no body of Arabic literature that comes even remotely close to the beauty of the language of the Quran. So for Muslims, that's a miracle, just as in Christianity, Jesus being the Son of God is the miracle. And then there are many beautiful universal verses in the Quran that inspired Rumi when he would go into a trance and also utter. He would say, I'm a slave of the Quran. I am dust on the path of Muhammad. Then the other poet Muhammad Shamsuddin, he was so inspired by the Quran. He memorized the Quran from beginning to end. And that in Islam, if you memorize the Quran, you're given a title. You're called Hafiz. So that's the poet Hafiz. There's another wonderful lady I'd like you to know, a great sage, the 8th, 9th century female, beloved sage saint Rabia, who would spend countless nights just meditating, pondering on verses of beauty in the Quran. So the Quran, you might say, has its roots in silence. In the cave in Mecca. So in preparation for Ramadan, it's wonderful to start a regular practice of just deep, authentic silence. And I'd like to just share a few insights about silence from the Islamic spiritual literature. Silence is not the absence of sound. Silence is not the absence of sound, it is the absence of the little self. The I, me. That's number one. Another one is silence is the language of God. Silence is the language of God. Everything else is a poor translation. So Rumi says, therefore, Brother Jamal, be silent so that the Lord who gave you language may speak. For as he fashioned a door and a lock, she also made a key. Be silent. Another one, in silence, the branches of your intelligence grows new leaves. In silence, the branches of your intelligence grows new leaves. So just be with that. Am I practicing silence? There's a verse in the Quran that says, be moderate in your pace, P-A-C-E, and lower your voice. Be moderate in your pace and lower your voice. So my teachers, when I was studying, they would say, it's like this. If you see a feather that is floating, if you rush ahead, it'll move even further away. If you want to fill a small cup with water and you use a huge pressure hose, it will not fill. But if I don't rush ahead, I am conscious, I am mindful, the pressure of the water is less. The feather will be in my grasp and the cup will fill. And then lower your voice. Prophet Muhammad was asked, please, can you share one spiritual practice? A Bedouin asked him. And the Prophet Muhammad said, manage your anger. He said, give me another one. Prophet Muhammad said, manage your anger. No, I'm asking for another one. Third time he said, manage your anger. Righteous anger is beautiful, but if you don't manage it, if you don't control it, if we don't surround it with or infuse it with awareness and love, it can fester into revenge, vengeance. That is why Rumi says, remember this, It is rain that grows flowers, not thunder. It is rain that grows flowers, not thunder. So, be moderate in your pace, lower your voice. And the prophet was asked, what else can you do to manage your anger besides lower your voice? And the Prophet Muhammad said, be with nature, connect with nature. If you're angry, immediately splash some water on your face. Number 3, lie down on the ground. Let Mother Earth embrace you. This will lower the temperature of your anger. Okay, what else in Ramadan? To become conscious of the glow of presence. We want to connect with God. Whatever your description of God is, I loved the song there about the eternal. I love that Sufi insight. What is God? Who is God? In the name of Him who has no name, but who appears by whatever name you call her. That is God, that is spirit, that is divinity. And the Quran says God is outside of you and inside of you. There's a verse I love in the Quran. It says, Allah, who is the God of all of humanity, is closer to you than your jugular vein. Allah is closer to you than your jugular vein, says the Quran. But where? Exactly. And Prophet Muhammad had a dream where God said, tell humanity, beloved one, Allah is speaking, I cannot be contained in the space of the earth. I cannot be contained in the space of the heavens, but I can be contained in the space of the pure, loving heart. Which is why for Sufis, these are people who love to focus more on the spirit of the tradition than the theology. A beautiful practice to connect with God is, as often as possible, I know some of you do that, to touch your heart as often as possible. Because divine heart is inside human heart. For anything you want to thank people for, or life for, small, medium, big, thank you. And if you want to go deeper, tell your heart as often as possible in your meditation, in your waking time, with feeling, I love you. I really love you. Please help me to love you. Now, many people tell me, oh, that feels kind of squeamish. I said, that's okay. Just try it. Do it again and again and again and again and again. And I tell you, in my work, in my therapy, in my counseling, this simple practice of telling the heart again and again and again and again, I love you, I really love you, has the most phenomenal effects, whether it's a heart attack, or whether it's some affliction, dysfunction. But telling the heart, I love you again and again, I can tell you with inner certainty, it really works. The Quran also says, truly in the remembrance of God do hearts find rest, peace. In the remembrance of God. And I love that saying of the Prophet Muhammad, who had a dream. And Prophet Muhammad dreamt a lot about Moses. By the way, Moses is the most mentioned prophet in the book Quran. And Moses was asking God, how do you define a spiritual human being? Moses, in this case, Moses was asking God, are you far away that I should shout out your name? Or are you nearby that I can just whisper to you? And what did God say? God said, beloved one, all you have to do is just remember me. I'm with those who remember me. So what technique can you use, I use, to remember that energy, that divine energy which is outside of me and also inside of me? Maybe just a mantra. Like for me, it's Allah, 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 Allah. La ilaha illallah. Sometimes I sing La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Who? Try it. La ilaha illallah. One more time. La ilaha illallah. And there's one wonderful teacher who says, a great Sufi saint who said, I have remembered you, God, so often. I've mentioned your word so many times, and this is what happened. Little by little, you arrived, and little by little, I departed. And that is the core of Islam. What does the word Islam mean literally? It means to surrender in peace. But the question is, what are you surrendering? What are you surrendering? The Quran suggests you're surrendering your attachment to your ego. What else for preparation for Ramadan? You know, Muslims, they do the 5 obligatory prayers, and you've seen Muslims praying. They'll go like this. Every movement has a meaning. This means, for now, as I stand before you, O God, in the presence of your majesty, for now I am putting the world behind me and just listening, bowing, standing up, prostrating. Why am I doing that? I want to let go of my ego. And when I sit up or I stand up, that is a symbol of what remains of me after I strive to let go of my ego as much as I can. And then when the Muslim turns to the right and says, Salam, peace and greetings be upon you, peace and greetings be upon you. Who are they addressing? Angels. Muslims say angels rush into places of sacredness and beauty. Peace be upon you, peace be upon you, from all sides. So prayers, where did Muhammad get the idea of going like this, using the body? And what are they saying? What is a Muslim saying when they are going this, like that, prostrating? Words of praise and gratitude to God. This is separate from supplication. Simply praising God and thanking God. And where did Muhammad get the idea? He had another phenomenal spiritual experience. The Quran calls it the night journey. He found himself being transported from Mecca to Jerusalem, where is at Al-Aqsa Mosque actually now in Jerusalem. And from there he began to ascend 7 levels of heaven, which has popularized, I am in 7th heaven. And as he was ascending 7 levels of heaven, he saw angels, and he was dazzled by what they were doing. They were going like this, like that, standing up and prostrating. And he heard closely what they were mumbling. They were praising God, thanking God. So from that, Muhammad got the idea that an essential prayer should consist of praising God, thanking God, and using the gift of the body to express this adoration. What else is important for us to prepare for Ramadan? It's a time of forgiveness. Oh God, I need forgiveness. Make a list of what you want to be forgiven by God. Allah in the Quran says, and this is a Quranic verse, say you, please, do not despair of the mercy of God, because Allah forgives all wrongdoings. Do not despair of the mercy of Allah, because Allah forgives all wrongdoings. To which the Prophet Muhammad added, but please don't go back to that wrongdoing. Just as, and his famous words are, just as milk returns not to the udder. forgiving somebody else. It's make a list of people you want to forgive. Again, I come back to Moses. Muhammad sees Moses in a dream, and Moses is asking Allah, who is a spiritual person? And Allah says, the one when that person is in a position of power, forgives. To which now the Sufi sages say, that's beautiful, that's wonderful, that's absolutely fantastic, but at the same time, just to say I forgive you really won't have any effect that deep until or unless you are simultaneously doing the work of acknowledging, healing the wound within you, the pain within you, the anguish within you, the hurt within you, the anger within you, because the Quran says all feelings come from God. And all sages, they say, if all feelings come from God, all feelings are sacred. They need to be acknowledged. They need to be touched with love, with compassion. They need to be healed. In fact, there's a story of a person who came to the Prophet Muhammad, and that person had murdered the Prophet's favorite uncle. Said, please forgive me, please forgive me. And Prophet Muhammad said, yes, I forgive you, but don't come into my presence for at least a certain period of time. Why? Because the Prophet needed to heal that wound within. Okay, very quickly, very critical also in the time of Ramadan to put special emphasis on something we have to do, we are doing every day of our lives. Prophet Muhammad said, Jamal, when you step into the world every day, you are either oppressing your soul or emancipating your soul. I'm talking about doing the inner inconvenient work. I'm talking about taming the ego, as the mystics say, from a commanding master into a personal assistant. Every hour, every day, every week, am I doing the work of transforming my ego, which I need to survive? It's beautiful, but it needs to be tamed from a commanding master into a personal assistant. And number two, the Quran says, simultaneously, you've got to purify your being and open your heart. So I ask myself, I make a list of what are some ego traits I need to diminish, look at within me. It's just a reflection of my personality. It's not my divine spark. And to connect to my divine spark, I have to go through my personality to connect. I have to purify myself. You know, Sufis say, do you understand the nature of purity? If your key is crooked, Brother Jamal, if your key is crooked, it will not fit the lock. The door to the heart will not open. So, purification. Becoming aware of your ego traits. Prophet Muhammad said there are 3 ego traits, the cause for the downfall of humanity. What are they? What are they? Number 1, pride or arrogance. Greed, number 2. Jealousy, number 3. There are many more, but take care of these. I love the story of, there's a fictional character called Mullah Nasruddin, through whom a lot of wisdom is conveyed. Fictional, 13th century. So the mullah, on a moonlit night, he's on his constitutional walk, happens to come to a well, and he just looks inside the well and is stunned, shocked. Why? The moon has fallen into the well. Sister Moon, fear not, I'm here. And rushes home, gets a rope, a hook, flings it inside. It probably catches something. He heaves and pulls and heaves and pulls. Something comes loose and he falls on his back. And he's so happy because he sees the moon restored to its proper domain. And he says, thank God I came along. So what is this about? About the fact that the ego has such an exaggerated opinion about itself. Okay, let's move on quickly. There is also opening up the heart. Polish the heart. Polish the heart. The Quran says, when there is rust on the heart, you got to remove it. And the Prophet Muhammad said, for every rust, there is a polish. And the polish for the rust of the heart is remembrance of God. God's solvents like patience, love, compassion, forgiveness. Very quickly, there's also service. How can I be of service? A lamp, a lifeboat, or a ladder to others. And Prophet Muhammad said, you don't have to be grand. And these are his famous words. Do good deeds according to your capacity. God never tires of giving rewards unless you tire of doing good deeds. The good deeds most loved by God are the ones that are done regularly, no matter how small they are. What are some good deeds I and you could be doing regularly, no matter how small they are? And lastly, Ramadan is a time of understanding the meaning and the practice of mercy, compassion. Allah in the Quran says, I have willed upon myself the law of compassion. Allah says, O Muhammad, tell humanity, you've been sent here as a mercy to others, to make things easy for others. Prophet Muhammad said, if kindness, if compassion was a visible object of the created world, if mercy, kindness, compassion, gentleness was a visible, created thing of the visible world, there'd be nothing more beautiful than this. And so, when I fast, the great mystics say, you have become aware of the pain of hunger, not just physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Take the right action to help yourself and others with nourishment, nurturance, caring, attention, belonging, love. And for this awareness of moving from a knowledge of the tongue to the heart, express gratitude to God. And I want to end by telling you very quickly my most favorite prayer of gratitude. Oh God, favor upon favor have you bestowed upon this handful of dust. Thank you. Thank you so much.